Ah, the Adirondack chair, the throne of summer relaxation, the humble mascot of fire pit shenanigans, the roadside welcomer of road trip travelers, and yes, the curious muse of American millennials moving to upstate New York. An iconic object whose iconic origin story begins not with relaxation, but with a massive health crisis. Picture this, 6 million acres of forest intertwined with rivers, lakes, and fresh air, 4.5 hours away from the heart of New York City, yet it feels like an entirely different planet. Enter the Adirondacks. Now picture this, it's late 19th century and a plague is absolutely destroying the smog-filled streets of New York City. And it's a plague that we don't know how to stop, at least not yet that is. And it goes by the street name consumption. Enter tuberculosis. Dun dun dun! Very dramatic. When tuberculosis arrived on the scene, it entirely perplexed modern medicine. Even the best doctors of New York City were all out of ideas on what to do about it. This was even true for Dr. Edward Livingston Trudeau, who himself, as a doctor, contracted the disease in 1873. He had been taking care of his sick brother, and not too long after his passing, he himself was also knocking on death's door. Sorry, I don't mean to get all doom and gloom on you this early, but the story does get better. In a last-ditch effort to defy the disease, Dr. Trudeau heads out to the Adirondacks. I mean, there at least his tired, poor lungs could enjoy some of that cool, crisp mountain air before his final rest. Raise your hand if you think you know where this story is going. I do. Now that air must have been medicinal because miraculously, Dr. Trudeau recovered. Yay him! Now previously the doc had heard of a thing called the rest cure, which was a concept put forth by another German doctor, Hermann Bremer. Dr. Bremer's story is similar. He was also on his last legs after suffering from tuberculosis, and he was also miraculously cured after a trip to the mountains, except he went to the Himalayas. Far be it from traveling all the way to Nepal, Dr. Trudeau found his own rest cure just a few hours outside of New York City. There has got to be magic in the mountains. In 1881, a New Yorker by the name of Mark Cook published an anonymous essay in Harper's Magazine, which told of his own miraculous recovery in the Adirondacks. This received so much attention that he expanded it to an entire volume entitled The Wilderness Cure. I came out of the Adirondacks with greater physical vigor than I had known for years. The purity of the atmosphere, the abundance of the sunlight, the complete absence of dampness, the very surroundings infuse new life into the feeble body. Here, the worst pulmonary symptoms subside by merely living and breathing this God-given life-saving air. You can go ahead and put that one on the brochure. And although that's not exactly what happened, that kind of is exactly what happened. Soon after, the Adirondacks became the destination spot for New Yorkers looking for the great wilderness cure. Now enter the Adirondack chair. It's a chair rooted in the history of disease, writes author Daniel Mack. As hundreds of people were fleeing to the Adirondacks to recover, cure cottages and sanatoriums were popping up all over the region. In fact, it was Dr. Trudeau who established the country's very first one, the Adirondack Cottage Sanatorium. It was there he got to continue his scientific research on the disease while his patients got to indulge in the healing hospitality of nature. A key feature of this healing hospitality were cure porches, spacious balconies where patients could lie out and take in that healing nature all day and night. The patients were able to talk amongst each other in reclining chairs that were made specifically for this purpose. Now you'll notice that those first Rondack chairs kind of just look like outdoor beds. They were honestly just nicer sanatorium beds made for the outside. They were not iconic just yet. So while all this is going down, there's a man named Thomas Lee, and he moves into the Adirondacks. Not because he is suffering with tuberculosis, but for other reasons. Like maybe the 6 million acres of fresh air, lakes, rivers, mountains. Those are some pretty good reasons. And at the turn of the century, this early genius is hell-bent on solving just one critical question. How can me and my family enjoy all that nature has to offer from the comfort of a chair? A question I have asked myself time and time again. He wasn't thinking about tuberculosis, the wilderness cure, or even his local sanatorium. He was just focused on getting a chair with a good view. And who can blame him? Thomas's family was very quickly roped into this affair as he had them sit on every single one of his prototypes and rate their experience. A real team effort. And then, after all of that, Thomas Lee finally makes it. The original Adirondack chair. Except it wasn't technically called that yet. I mean, it wasn't really called anything because Thomas Lee was just a guy looking to make a comfortable chair, and he did just that, and didn't really have plans for it to go anywhere after that. If I had to guess, it was probably called chair attempt number 1945. So when Lee's friend Harry C. Bunnell shows up and is strapped for cash, Lee hands him the plans for this chair. He figures Harry can make a couple bucks off selling the chairs. I mean, all his neighbors seem to love them after all. It's just a couple chairs. What's a couple chairs? I mean, he didn't expect Harry to go and patent the design. Honestly messy. But that is exactly what Bunnell did. In 1904, he patented that design that his friend had made with just a few small modifications. And boy, did it take off. In the decades since Thomas Lee's invention, the Adirondack chair has become not only a prominent feature on the cure porches of the Adirondacks, but really of all porches everywhere. The chair got a big makeover in 1938 when Irvin Wolpin submitted a patent that updated the design with wooden slats. He's the one that gave it that optimistic, sunrisey clamshell design that the Adirondack chair is known for today. The chair's popularity even headed north to Canada, where it now goes by the name the Muskoka chair, named after Ontario's own cottage haven, aka our version of the Adirondacks. And today, the beauty of the Adirondack chair is that we don't need to go to the Adirondacks to access all it has to offer. And we certainly don't need to go through a massive health crisis to find wellness in the wilderness. Although funny enough, Condé Nast has actually listed the Adirondacks as one of the top places to visit in 2024. All that to say, the Rondacks are back, baby. So today, where there's an Adirondack chair, there is an invitation to sit back, relax, let nature take care of the rest, and basically, go get outside, girl. And while you're there, hit up Wayfair to get your chair on. Although they might not come with bedpans anymore, thank goodness. They do come in almost every color and material under the sun. And word in the neighborhood is that they even have fold-up versions for easy storage. So what are you waiting for? The wilderness awaits. Bye!